Welcome. In this video, we are going to review this great paper, Image Generators with Conditionally Independent Pixel Synthesis. That's really an awesome paper. Here you can see samples from the model. On this model is working without special convolutions, without self-attention, without upsampling. Basically, each pixel is generated independently without being aware of the other pixels. We're going to see how that's possible, but that's very awesome. So yeah, they present a new kind of architecture, again, one where each pixel is independent, not aware of the others, they train it in an adversarial fashion, and they get results that are competitive with style GAN. We're going to discuss that later. Here they mention a bit that this approach of basically using implicit neural representation has been used in the past, but usually to model a single scene. So for example, what happens is you have a 3D scene, you fit a nerve to the scene, or you have a single image, you fit a siren model to the image, you overfit the model on the image. Here it's a bit similar, but here it's really a generative model. It's not done on a single image. Again, the model is not using any special convolution, neither attention, on yet it's competitive with StyleGAN v2. We're going to have a look at the method in a bit. On what is great with that approach is that then it's really easy to work with weird shapes. Sometimes in physics, in 3D, you have specific shapes that cannot be modeled easily. For example, if you want to model a 360 camera, or if you want to generate a panorama or a rounded image, it's difficult to do with standard tools. But here, this architecture, it really allows that, because you can just... we're going to discuss how it's done. They use a set of coordinates as input, but basically you can give any coordinate you want as input. You are not restricted with grids or with voxels. They mentioned other works that have also worked, for example, with spherical panoramas. Again, that's what we just said. Here, this approach is well suited for all of that. There've been work that focused on that, but those works still used CNN. Not that it's bad to CNNs, but here it's really like the idea is not use any relationship between pixels. Each pixel is modeled independently. We're going to discuss that later. Fourier encoding. So basically, in terms of methods, basically each image is generated from a random vector z. Okay, so that's really the random vector z that will that generates the image. It's a bit, of course, it's the same with GANs, but here it's really like once you have your vector z, then each pixel will be generated independently from the vector z. So basically, you have on one side the vector z, then you have a pixel coordinates. So basically for each pixel, you have of course its coordinate, and then the model takes as input the coordinates x, y, z. Well, x, y. The 2D, it's a 2D grid, together with the shared latent, and basically output the color for that pixel. Okay. So what is great with that approach is that you can heavily parallelize the code, the inference. You can just generate each pixel independently. So let's say you have you need to be very fast. You have 1K GPUs. You can just split the work on all your GPUs asynchronously. You don't need to wait anything. There is no information. The only information that is shared is the latent vector z. Yes, basically that's the main thing. Okay, so each pixel has its coordinate that is fed as input. You feed the coordinate x, y together with the latent and get the color of that pixel. That's the overview of the method. Now, if we dive into the architecture a bit more, it's inspired from StyleGAN v2. So you have a mapping network M that maps the latent z into a style vector. So again, it does that for each pixel independently. Again, okay, that's what I just mentioned. Heavily parallelizable at inference time. So usually what happens when you feed coordinates like this to a neural network, because neural networks are biased towards learning low frequency signals, it's difficult to fit images or to learn a generative model of images. So you need to map those coordinates into a higher dimensional space, known as, for example, for example, Fourier features or coordinate embedding, heavily used in nerve, in your radiance field, also used in transformers. So basically what they do, they use Fourier embeddings. So basically they use an embedding to map the coordinates xy to higher dimensional space. But basically they say, it's inspired from the Siren paper, a very interesting paper. That I implemented on my channel, by the way. Maybe I will put the link in the description if you want to have a look at the implementation. But basically they say that for this task, it was not enough just to encode the coordinates using Fourier encoding. So basically what they also do, they also add a vector, so CO, basically CO for coordinates embeddings. So that's something that is learned. And then the final coordinate embedding is the concatenation of the Fourier embedding of x and y, the coordinates, and also the coordinate embedding vector that is learned you learn a set of vectors on their functions of the coordinates xy. Okay, so your final embedding is the combination of both, and we are going to discuss the impact of each later. Okay, so they base the code base on top of the open source release of Stallion v2. They use R1 penalty on, I thought they used R1 on R2, but they just use R1 penalty. So that's a regularization in adversarial training, very commonly used. They named the method the CIPS generator, and it has been used in a lot of follow-up work. So I think it's a very nice paper to have in mind. Kind of, very different way to do things. But it has been used in a lot of follow-up work. They do a lot of interesting ablation studies. Maybe we're going to discuss the impact later. But coordinate embeddings is critical. Without it, the method did not work. So adding this, this second set of embedding was really critical. Just the free embedding was not enough. Residual, cumulative projection to RGB. Basically what they do, we did not discuss that. I think it's explained around here. If you read the paper, that's just explained here. Basically they use a lot of skip connections directly to the final RGB value. So basically, let's say you have layer 1, you have some skip connections to the final RGB value, and you have that for many blocks. And therefore, the final RGB output is the sum. You have the final value. Some of it is coming from the last block, but then you also have all the skip connections. On the final RGB value is just the sum of all of that. And they say that led to much better results. So basically, if we compare like Fourier features on coordinate embedding, basically what they say on what we can see here, figure 5. Well, on the figure 4, you have the Fourier spectrum, but if we have a look at figure 5, you can see that the Fourier features encode the high frequency details, the low frequency details, while the coordinate embedding encode the high frequency details. They also show interesting results here. For those, I believe the leftmost side is with both encoding. The image in the middle is only with the Fourier features. On the top right is only with the coordinate embedding. So you can clearly see that the coordinate embedding is responsible for the high frequencies on the Fourier features for the low frequencies. So the model allows, it allows latent interpolation or latent morphing. So basically here on the leftmost side you have one image with one latent, on the rightmost side an image with another latent, and they can easily interpolate between those images. And of course you can also do spatial interpolation. For example, the model is trained with 256 resolution, but then you can, because the pixel coordinates are just fed as input to the neural network, you can generate image at any resolution. For example, I think at some point they show results with results about that, where they generate at 1024, even though the model was trained at 256. Maybe it's this image. Yeah, okay. So here they show that I think, okay, you have one image that is 256, and the other is 1024. Yeah, I'm not sure what is the conclusion, but okay, yeah. So basically, yeah, the only thing you need to modify is the input grid. You feed as input, you create the network many times as in a batch. So either you have a batch with all the pixels for generating the 256 image, or you can generate a grid with 1024 by 1024. So you can just generate any resolution on any shape you want. You don't need to have a nice 2D grid. Okay, so I think that's it for this paper. Very interesting paper. It has been used in a lot of follow-up work, in a lot of very important GAN paper. So it's really great to be aware of this paper. I really hope you liked the video. If it was, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment. Thank you.